shading. So when it comes to shading in blackwork, I would say in real traditional blackwork there's not real much shading involved. Beside of this, there is still a lot of shadings you can use. A lot of blackwork artists use a more traditional rip shading, or they use kind of a very soft normal shading within like patterns or black or from lines to create some depth. There's also a lot of blackwork artists use dot work as shading. So I guess you're already a little bit advanced tattooist, so you know a little bit of shading, but any kind of shading, works in blackwork. So it's always about what you want to do, think about what shading fits to your style and what makes sense. It's hard to say because the overall topic of blackwork, I mean black and gray tattooing is still also blackwork because it's only contained black. And then using like a gray tone as shading in a blackwork, is it still blackwork called? Especially all in my beginning work, in my old work, I used a lot very heavy blackwork and a lot of classical blackwork, and I start using red lines in it, and I would still consider it as blackwork because it's mostly black. But all of this, there are like some people say it like this, some say it like this. In my eyes, you don't really need shading in real blackwork. I like more traditional blackwork and stuff like this, but you always can add in a shading. You can add in different shading techniques, and that's the style you prefer and you like. Maybe you make some research and you find some people and you like their style, and then you see what do they use. I know quite a lot of different examples where people use blackwork and super soft shading, and I really love it. I know people who use blackwork with really rough shading. We will show you in this course a little bit on my client how we make the crazy abstract shading, what we are very known for, because it's these days a big part of blackwork as well. And there's like some options of dot work shadings we can show you here quick on a different client. And there's a lot of variations of shading you can do, and it's all up to you and to your style of blackwork. So as we speak before, there's a lot of different variations of how you can make shadings in blackwork tattoos. On this piece, we will use some abstract shading because we have a lot of abstract shading on the arms already, and I think it will fit nice to come from the top part with some abstract stuff here. It will also hold these abstract triangles of the red. So what we will do now, we will make first quick the red, because they are here anyway, and we were saying we want to adopt the old design to the new design. And then I will make a couple of paintings on him, freehand painting, to see how we will make our fade, and then we will just trying to get from black around the red and fade over more light in that direction. So we saved just the red line so that we know where we have to make our fadings around. What we do is we will make a little bit of rougher shading, like a rip shading or something around here. I'm not will paint this, or no, it was just a little bit to show you guys. And then I think we want to make a kind of a shading comes like this, like kind of where the t-shirt is. So what I do is I mark myself like these two lines, so I know a little bit the intensity of the shade, and then I want to have a couple of more abstract pieces inside. So I like to make a couple of markings from this. Here we go. So when it comes to abstract shading, we still want think about it's a structure in the black, like a pattern in the black. Even when you make something, it looks wild, it looks chaotic, it's still a very precise stuff. You see, it's not just me making wild lines. It's like I paint the lines, I try to think about where does the lines make sense, where they fit nice, and overall I want to have a pattern within this, like a structure, and I want even the lines go from a little bit bigger, a little bit of fatter, to a little bit less saturated to where I want my fade. So I want to have my fade comes from here to lighter to stop somewhere here, but I also want the full thing fade over there. So what we try to create is like a very soft fade. And when it comes to fading, you have to think about when you would paint or like take a car and you want to fade it from black to white, you would start on the very back with black and you have very white in the front, and in between it's all the different gray tones. And so it's in a fade like this, you want to think about where's the black and where's the white. And you don't want to have only like a few centimeters. You don't want to make a black and then fade it in 2 centimeters with just a couple of sketchy lines, because it will not look like a real fade. It will look like a weird ending and not like a fade. But what we really trying to create is kind of softer fade. So we don't need to have it full black. We don't, because we want the full black is kind of here. So all of this is part of the fade, and the pattern will be black. So that's why I was making already the outlines here very unsaturated. As you see, the outlines are very, very light, because we don't need real black here. We don't need real black outlines here, because all of this will be just like a fade. So for this I will take also my 15 Magnum. Basically I like to start with the darker parts and kind of smooth my fade in. So I want also the lines fade with the piece. So we come from darker to lighter. But also you see, I not only want come from darker to lighter, I also want come from here. That's why I made my helping lines, so that I'm in the tattooing itself, I see where I start fading the line. So the next step what I do now is making some smaller lines around. With this I usually go completely freehand and also still keep my main shading lines in mind. And as you see, we even can create kind of a shade with even simple lines like this. Just always remember at your main line. And take your time. So, and I like to work my way down. I start with the biggest elements and then I start setting small new elements. And I can recommend in the beginning, when you not know your elements and your feelings and everything so much, it's better to like really make one step, paint it, make another step, paint it. And better paint it 4 times than make some lines which you're not happy with. So that will be all my structure. I said from now on, it's pretty straightforward, kind of a rib shading. I try to just shade a nice shading over everything like you would do without the sketchy stuff. So it will get a little bit more depth. I'm pretty much done with the main fade to the front. And as you see, we are going with the wave of the shirt like what we marked before. We come from dark to light, the lines fade, the intensity of the lines fade, the rib shading fades. It goes from darker from this side to light, very, very light on this side. And that was the main idea. Now we come to here. And I don't want to make this Kritzel Kratzel fade around the red. I want that the red looks like it hovers over everything. So I will just make a very little bit of rib shading, and a lot of the times I just take my needle a little bit sideways. I can show you that very good here, and I create like this very gentle rib shade fade. So I will now do that and fill the connection to the black, and yeah, that's about the shading. Very simple. One easy trick what I do, like when it comes to any kind of fades, you usually tend that everything gets darker, that the spaces get less. So when I know I want to have 1 centimeter wide, I try in my mind to say to myself, I want 2 centimeter fade, because it's so fast. You make a fade and it gets darker and darker and darker. That's why I try with important fades like this, which I know I want it very lightful. I start with the light part. I not start with the black, because it tend to get a lot more darker when I start with the black. So I have these simple things, usually start light and then build it up darker, because there's no way back. And sometimes you make too less space and then you don't like the shading and you want it a little bit softer, or the fade a little bit different. Then you need the room to make it nicer or change it. Especially when it comes to a little bit obstructor fade, what a lot of people do, they make the side fade like this. So they have from black the zigzag fade, and then they make a couple of lines in, and then it gets darker, and then they don't like the line, they add some more, and then they put some more, and you see it goes very fast that you just get darker and that your negative space is fading away. So we done all the shading. We will quick clean it up. So you see very nice how we have a very nice fade up to there. For fade, sometimes it's good to go a little bit away in distance to really see them. Here I keep it a little bit open, so when he gets his back, then it can be connected from the back. Also around the red, I try to keep a little bit of fade, so you see it have this kind of hovery feeling. I don't like to have too much white, and I don't like to have a fade who is too wild around the red, because the red, it's already very wild, so it really don't need it. It's a little bit of a rip shading, and it brings more the focus on the soft wild fade over here.